I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to reduce it to its lowest terms, and, if it proved to be mean, to get the whole and genuine meanness of it, or if it were sublime, to know it by experience, and to give a true account of it. When I wrote the following pages, or rather the bulk of them, I lived alone in the woods, a mile from any neighbor, in a house which I had built myself, on the shore of Walden Pond, in Concord, Massachusetts, and earned my living by the labor of my hands only. When I first took up my abode in the woods, my house was not finished. It was a pleasant hillside where I worked, covered with pine woods, through which I looked out on the pond and a small open field in the woods where pines and hickories were springing up.
July 4th, 1845. Dearest Henry, congratulations on the start of your experiment. I hope that the work goes well and the ideas are fruitful. Mr. Emerson says you are intent to devour yourself in our woods, but I hope that you will remember to take good care and keep yourself well. Mother worries, as do I. Your loving sister, Sophia.
July 1845. My dear Henry, Mr. Emerson has assisted my family in acquiring a house near Concord, and there we are now, writing and living like philosophers, which is to say, with little but happily. I will visit you soon and bring Mr. Garrison of the Liberator. We have all been so inspired by his earnest and unequivocal writings regarding the moral stain of slavery on our nation. Perhaps he will speak at our Lyceum on the topic. Yours truly, A. Bronson Alcott.
There is some of the same fitness in a man's building his own house that there is in a bird's building its own nest. Who knows but if men constructed their dwellings with their own hands and provided food for themselves and families simply and honestly enough, the poetic faculty would be universally developed, as birds universally sing when they are so engaged. "What are you doing now?" Emerson asked. "Do you keep a journal?" "So I make my first entry today." Interesting. My house was on the side of a hill, immediately on the edge of the larger wood, in the midst of a young forest of pitch pines and hickories, and 6 rods from the pond, to which a narrow footpath led down the hill. In my front yard grew the strawberry, blackberry, and life everlasting, John's wort and goldenrod, shrub oaks and sand cherry, blueberry and groundnut. Interesting. My residence was more favorable not only to thought, but to serious reading than a university. And though I was beyond the range of the ordinary circulating library, I had more than ever come within the influence of those books which circulate round the world. Interesting. I am no more lonely than the loon in the pond that laughs so loud, or than Walden Pond itself. I am no more lonely than a single mullein or dandelion in a pasture, or a bean leaf or sorrel, or a horsefly or a bumblebee. I am no more lonely than the millbrook, or a weathercock, or the north star, or the south wind, or an April shower, or a January thaw, or the first spider in a new house. The grand necessity, then, for our bodies is to keep warm, to keep the vital heat in us. The necessaries of life for man in this climate may, accurately enough, be distributed under the several heads of food, shelter, clothing, and fuel. For not till we have secured these are we prepared to entertain the true problems of life with freedom and a prospect of success.
July 1845. Dear Henry, you've told me yourself that it is difficult to begin anything without borrowing, and I know that you can use an axe, so I've left one for you in my front yard by the chopping stump. Do come by any time to fetch it. Perhaps we can discuss the new lecture I am working on while you are here. Your friend, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Wishing to earn $10 or $12 by some honest and agreeable method, in order to meet my unusual expenses, I planted about 2.5 acres of light and sandy soil, chiefly with beans. Interesting. Every day or two I stroll to the village to hear some of the gossip which is incessantly going on there, circulating either from mouth to mouth or from newspaper to newspaper, and which, taken in homeopathic doses, was really as refreshing in its way as the rustle of leaves and the peeping of frogs.
It's very good to make your acquaintance, Mr. Thoreau. Your sister seems to believe our thoughts and philosophies are very much aligned. It is good to find a youth so interested in the finer fruits of thought. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Oh, Henry, how goes your new experiment? Has genius struck yet at my woodlot?
Yes, in fact, the experiment is going quite well.
Excellent to hear. I do look forward to reading your new work. I hope you are keeping a good journal, full of your insights about life in the woods.
Since you're here, I could use your assistance with some research I'm doing for a new lecture. Could you spare the time to help me?
Certainly.
Well, thank you. I know you're quite busy with your own work, but I need help finding my copy of Homer's Iliad. I saw that you were reading it down by your new cabin. Do you still have it there?
Yes, I have seen it and can get it for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. When you come back, we can discuss the passage I'm looking for. In the meanwhile, I found some books on bean planting and local wildlife you might find useful. I put them on the table in my library for you.
I look forward to it. Goodbye for now. Interesting.
Dear Miss Fuller, it was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for the introductions to such brilliant new company. I am sure that writers such as these will fill our new journal with rays of golden talent. I have another name to add to the roster of our dial, Mr. Henry David Thoreau, a fine, brave youth of this town from whom I expect great things. I will send you some of his work soon. My son, young Waldo, is very well, and wife Lydian sends her love. R.W. Emerson. Recommendation for Henry David Thoreau. I cordially recommend Mr. Henry D. Thoreau, a graduate of Harvard University in August 1837, to the confidence of such parents or guardians as may propose to employ him as an instructor. I have the highest confidence in Mr. Thoreau's moral character and in his intellectual ability. He is an excellent scholar, a man of energy and kindness, and I shall esteem the town fortunate that secures his services. R. Waldo Emerson.
Many men walk by day, few walk by night. It is a very different season. Chancing to take a memorable walk by moonlight some years ago, I resolved to take more such walks and make acquaintance with another side of nature. As I walked in the woods to see the birds and squirrels, so I walked to the village to see the men and boys. Instead of the wind among the pines, I heard the carts rattle. In one direction from my house, there was a colony of muskrats in the river meadows. Under the grove of elms and buttonwoods in the other horizon was a village of busy men, as curious to me as if they had been prairie dogs.
Here come John and Henry, Mother, back from their adventures. How was it? Did the boat sail well? Did you see beyond the horizon? Oh, you both look full of good sun and stories. I can't wait to hear them all. Tell what new flowers you found blooming first.
July 1838. Dear Messieurs Thoreau, my sister, whom you know, has sent me a copy of the Yeoman's Gazette with your advertisement for a new Concord Academy, and suggested I contact you regarding the education of my son, Edmund Sewell. Edmund is a bright pupil, and is in need of instruction preparatory to a collegiate course, with the usual English branches of study. I will send him, with my daughter Ellen as chaperone, to meet you at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Reverend Edmund Quincy Sewell. Good to see you, Henry.
Good morning. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run.
What can I do for you?
Interesting. For my part, I could easily do without the post office. I think that there are very few important communications made through it. For a long time, I was a reporter to a journal, of no very wide circulation, whose editor has never yet seen fit to print the bulk of my contributions, and, as is too common for writers, I got only my labor from my pains.
My dear Thoreau, believe me when I say that I have tried to do you the favor of getting your article into the hands of publishers, but I have not had success in this errand, and have hardly a hope that it will be immediate, if ever. I know you have written a good thing, too good, I fear, to be profitable to yourself or attractive to publishers. I will remain your champion in these matters, however, and entreat you to send me that one piece you were working on when we met at your family home. Remember me to Ralph Waldo Emerson. Yours heartily, Horace Greeley.
Dear Mr. Thoreau, Dr. Agassiz was quite satisfied with the specimens you sent last month. He says to tell you that the small mud turtle was actually a very rare species quite distinct from the snapping turtle as you labeled it. We would be very much obliged if you could supply us with samples of the following fishes from your small pond and can pay 75 cents apiece. 5 common shiners, 3 yellow perch, 1 walleye. Sincerely, James Elliott Cabot, Assistant to Dr. Agassiz, Harvard University.
Ah, Henry Thoreau, is it then? I hear you finally got your little cabin built out there by the pond. Now, why would a man want to spend all his time alone, I ask you? Give me a good warm house and a hot dinner is what I say.
Society is commonly too cheap. We meet at the post office and at the sociable and about the fireside every night. We live thick and are in each other's way and stumble over one another, and I think that we thus lose some respect for one another. Near at hand, upon the topmost spray of a birch, sings the brown thrasher, or red mavis, as some love to call him, all the morning, glad of your society, that would find out another farmer's field if yours were not here. While you are planting the seed, he cries, drop it, cover it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. Before yet any woodchuck or squirrel had run across the road, or the sun had got above the shrub oaks, while all the dew was on, I began to level the ranks of haughty weeds in my bean field and throw dust upon their heads. In the course of the summer, it appeared by the arrowheads which I turned up in hoeing, that an extinct nation had anciently dwelt here. Daily the beans saw me come to their rescue armed with a hoe, and thin the ranks of their enemies, filling up the trenches with weedy dead. Regularly at 7:30, in one part of the summer, after the evening train had gone by, the whippoorwills chanted their vespers for half an hour, sitting on a stump by my door, or upon the ridge pole of the house. In June, the partridge, which is so shy a bird, led her brood past my windows, from the woods in the rear to the front of my house, clucking and calling to them like a hen, and in all her behavior proving herself the hen of the woods. The young suddenly disperse on your approach, at a signal from the mother, as if a whirlwind had swept them away. Interesting. I kept Homer's Iliad on my table through the summer, though I looked at his page only now and then.